Welcome to the RMFJ Podcast with your host, Rick Jones.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the RMFJ Podcast. Today, I am with a good friend of mine, David Garibaldi. You've maybe heard of him. I'm sure if you watch America's Got Talent, you saw him on there. He was a finalist. He's a performance painter. Again, America's Got Talent, he was on there. He toured with Kiss. He toured with Andrea Bocelli. He's involved in charities. He travels all around the world. And the main thing you need to know is he is just an overall good guy and badass. David, welcome to the show.
Man, thank you so much for having me. Great to see you again.
Nice to see you again.
Yeah.
Okay, let's go over again how we met. I was on Delta. You were on Delta writing. Yeah, I'm a United guy now, which it's hard for me to admit,
Likewise, I'm a big United guy.
And so we were riding. I think we were going to JFK, and I sat down next to you, and we just got talking. And that was, I don't know how many years ago now, a few years ago.
Yeah, it was maybe 2 years ago. But yeah, I was on my way to meet my now fiance. And I believe we were going to the Bahamas for this trip because she went ahead of me. And, we were sitting front row, first class. I'm pretty sure it was a red eye, if I'm not mistaken. It was a red eye. And,
it was.
Before we even took off, we just started chatting it up. You're like, hey, what do you do? And I'm like, I throw paint for a living. And I'm like, what do you do? You're like, I fly these planes all around the world. I'm like, that's awesome. And then we just started chatting it up. And then it's like, hey, man, what's your Instagram? Kept in touch. And we've become Insta buddies for the past couple years.
It's been great. I hope I'm not inundating you with all the things I sent.
No, it's very entertaining. You would think that I have someone managing my social media. It's me. It's just me on there, trying to get to every message. But no, it's all entertaining. It's all love.
How do you do that? How many followers do you have? It's 100 and some thousand.
So I have over 2 million across platforms. So on
crap.
And that, what's crazy is about that is I had been on social media since it started, like 2010, 11, 12. Like everyone did MySpace and Facebook, but really got into it 2011-ish, 12. And it was just kind of grew organically until 2020. And then I was home, I was in my studio, and we had a lot of time. So I started doing these live streams like 3 times a week. And then I would post the content from those live streams. And then, within months, we shot up to millions of followers, which was just unreal. Because I'm like, this is all I had to do, stay home for 2 months and build my following. And it really, really helped change our business in that time. But I love it. I love social media in the best parts, the part where we get connected, we learn incredible stories about people we would never know. So I enjoy it. But it's just me.
Well, you make that recipe sound easy, and it's a very difficult thing to do, but for most people. But you are an engaging person. You're so talented. You're uber talented, and you do unique things that a lot of people don't know about. It's such a unique world. And plus, I think the main thing, probably the reason that what has rocketed to you as an outsider here, is that you're just so real. Like, it's just real. I can't believe when I look at your stuff and follow you, it's so cool to be your friend, because I'm like, you are just the realest dude. Like, there's just no pretense. Like, you're just you.
No,
You're David.
thank you,
Anyways, no. So it's a joy to watch, and I just dig it. I don't just enjoy what you put out there, but like it makes me just like, I'm waiting for the next thing. Too.
Yeah,
And
thank you.
It's fun.
I was born in LA, but I grew up in Sacramento. And I think being in Sacramento during a time where there wasn't a lot here, and it was very easy to be humble growing up in a city. And then I think being part of the growth here, I never, as much as my career grew, I still came back home. My family's here. And I think that people get disconnected when they go chase a dream and you start to think you have to act a certain way, when I think it's very easy to go be the best that you can at what you do and then still keep your soul intact along the way. And, and I thank my family for that, for doing, I don't even know if that was their job or not, but they definitely have kept me down to earth quite a bit this whole time. And then kids, and then you have kids and they're so unimpressed, and I love it. I absolutely love that they are not impressed with what I do, just enough. But I would assume that that's probably a big part of it is Sacramento. This is home.
That's a big pitch. That's the only pitch I think I've ever heard for Sacramento, and I appreciate
That's all you're going to get. You'll never hear another one anywhere else.
All right, I want to get into the America's Got Talent, which is amazing. I want to get into the tour with Kiss. I really want to get into the touring with Andrea Bocelli and some of the other stuff. But can we first start real quick? I'm just teasing there a little bit. How did you get started in this?
Yeah.
First of all, I mean, if you could explain what you do, and how did you get started?
Yeah. So performance painting is the process of making art engaging and entertaining. I create these large portraits. They're 6-foot portraits in minutes to music. And the process has to be entertaining and keep my audience engaged. I always say it's like Bob Ross meets Rolling Stones. And it's maybe a little Blue Man Group in there too. But I just try to do my best to make it fun. When I started, it was a sort of a collision of passions. I was into music, I was into dance, but art was always there. And then there was an artist, Denny Dent, that really started this style of performance painting in the 80s, 90s. I saw his work, and overnight, my life changed because the next day I was trying to teach myself and develop this skill set that I had no reference for either. There was nothing in the world that I had seen like this. So I just started really figuring it out in front of people. And I think that was a gift because it was before social media. I was not afraid of what people thought of me. And I did a lot of bad paintings in front of a lot of people, but slowly over time they got better. And hopefully people will consider me a better entertainer now along the way as well. So that's, in general what the process is. And also it's a very unique art form still. You see some videos of people doing it online around the world, but there's still, maybe 5 of us around the world that we all know each other. It's a very, known group of people, but it's hard to start because it doesn't make sense on paper. When you start telling your friends, like, I'm going to go throw paint for a living. And usually they're like, what? And then you'll either have people that encourage you, like, yeah, that's cool, man. Try it out. See how it goes. Or there's so-called friends that are like, yeah, maybe you should rethink this. And I just had just enough allies that they pushed me to keep getting better.
So do you ever feel vulnerable doing that? Like, you're putting an art out there, something that you're creating. Do you ever feel like, man, what if this sucks? Or what if someone doesn't like it? Or what if the crowd doesn't like it? And I should say also, you do halftime of NBA games, WNBA games. I see that. It's amazing. So you have you have an arena full of people who came there and I'm sure love what you're doing, but they didn't come there to watch you. And now you're out there and you're putting this art in front of them. What does that feel like walking out there? Do you get nerves or do you just so confident in it? What's that like?
Yeah. Well, aside from being a performance painter, I think I've had to master the art of turning a cold room into some of my biggest fans, like in minutes. And that's become like an art form. And so yes, I'm always nervous. But before I'm painting, when I'm painting, will they like this? I just don't let it overcome me so much that I stop in my tracks or I don't keep going. So I think that's a big part of it. It's, and then also keep this in mind, it is a blank black canvas when I start. So I don't know if you've ever sat in front of a blank canvas before, but even as a veteran in the canvas painting game, I still stare at it like, holy crap, I hope this all works out. And then as I start painting, it really starts to recall the muscle memory and, okay, we've been here before. We've been uncomfortable. This is not new. We know how to turn this around. And just pushing through that feeling the vulnerability of, will they like this? And then also, wait, we know what we're doing. Like, come on, man, speak with your chest, paint with confidence. And that's the dialogue going on during this process. So I think that I would add to that, especially the NBA games, those have to be done in 6 minutes or less. And if you go over, the team has to pay some sort of TV fine. And they make this very clear to me before I go out. So then there's that pressure. And I think I would just go back to just prepare as much as you can, and then enjoy the moment as you're creating, because not everything's gonna be perfect and you can only control what you can. And then hopefully the audience enjoys it, and hopefully you walk away with a lesson or two.
Where do you get the inspiration for what you're going to paint?
Well, I work very close with our clients. So I was just in Napa, California for an organization called Restaurant Spaces. It's like the top 200 to 300 restaurant builders around the world. So these are the architects, the builders, like the kind of the creative the people who create the spaces that we end up dining in. And so for them, they came to me with some ideas. They're like, look, we want to spark some creativity. So one of them was David Bowie. The other one was Statue of Liberty, kind of creative freedom. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I was only supposed to do 2 paintings. And then I kind of surprised them with one more in the middle, which was a new Anthony Bourdain portrait, which I had never done. But I took their suggestions, but also integrated what I think would be a representation of what they're creating and the space of what gives liberty to someone like an Anthony Bourdain, when he was with us, or any other culinary creative in the spaces that they're creating. And so it worked, most of the time it works, but we work in very close collaboration with our clients. And then I sort of go with a gut feeling and say, let me add this, or I think we should shift it to this. Because ultimately, the painting is the true star in this. I'm like a conduit between the painting and the audience. And as long as they feel connected with that image and then the experience that brings it to life, I've done my job and I feel like I can just walk away. But the painting has to be the star in this process.
I feel like it, honestly, here, not to poo-poo that, but I feel like it's a combination. I feel like you are such a star, and that's probably why it goes so well for you too, because you are so humble about it. But what you're creating it's amazing too. The whole experience, like I sit back, I'm sitting here. You have a black canvas. You have 6 minutes.
Yeah,
and you have to create this thing and the feel, not just like making a painting of somebody, but the feel and the element you're trying to capture. Is to me, it's such an intimidating thought. Do you ever have times where you're just like, man, if I just had 10 minutes?
Oh yeah,
like 8 minutes or
all the time. And actually, for like the corporate events where I have more control of the time. So, for example, that event in Napa was actually an hour-long show because I was also speaking and sharing my journey. But I added, 1 to 1.5 minutes to those portraits. So I will definitely give myself the time when I can, and I will definitely take advantage of that.
And you do some upside down, correct?
Correct, yeah. Depending on the day.
What kind of a day would possess you to want to do this in front of thousands of people and, oh, yeah, I'm just going to go ahead and do this upside down and then flip it around? Like, first of all, how'd that come about? How do you visualize that?
Yeah.
And do you ever have any surprises when you flip it right side up?
Yeah, there's a lot of surprises. Well, I credit Denny Dent. Denny Dent was the first person that I saw do this upside down painting and reveal it like it was this mystery, and almost like the audience, they felt like they were being let down, but this whole time he sort of like tricked them. It's like a magic trick, but there's no strings and you're watching it being created. Flip it over and then everyone's mind clicks and you see it all together. So seeing how he did that, now when I started teaching myself, luckily I had a foundation in art where I could create shapes that came together and render those so that when you flipped it over, it really looked and felt like a portrait. I wasn't learning too much on the spot, but as I became an entertainer more than just an artist, I realized where I could put these moments in the live show and it would make this moment really, really special. So I like to do it mostly later on in a show when I've got 2 to 4 paintings that I'm doing in a single show. The first one, they are looking very confused. They're like, I know everyone else is clapping, but at what and why? And why is he so confident? Because I don't see anything. And then eventually the portrait is done, and then they're like, oh, like what just happened? And I don't feel like the first one they really got to enjoy it. You know, they're fighting with these emotions about how they're supposed to feel about it. Second one, they're like, all right, I'm going to focus on this. And they're quiet. They're more quiet on the second one because they're really now intent looking for the shapes that bring the portrait to life. And then they're like, okay, third or fourth one, they're like, I get it. We're going to see a portrait. There's the nose. And then the more it goes on, it's not. They can't understand. They're back to that feeling in the beginning. Like, this is a little uncomfortable. And flip it, and then just their whole emotion just gets rocked in a moment. And that's a fun feeling. As an artist, as a performer, it's not like a band, because a band has got the audience with them before they even walk in the room. We get to do something different and play with different emotions in this experience. So choosing when to do it and where is really just depending on what roller coaster do we want to take the audience on today. And so I'll throw it in when we just want to have fun, have a fun challenge. I'll add this. There's many shows that you see me do a portrait upside down where I decided that right before the show. And that's only because I want the challenge. Like, I'm like, I could do this so easy right side up. Let me play around. Let me do some studying. Like, okay, I think I could pull this off. And a really great example is I did a halftime for the Milwaukee Bucks. Damian Lillard was launching his new shoe with Adidas. It was a big night. And I mean, before we went out there, I'm like, I'm going to do it upside down. I think that would be a better moment for this audience. And then I did, and it worked out. Most of the time it worked.
That's insane. Oh yeah, I'm just going to do it upside down. You know, just being your friend and going to one of these shows and knowing you're going to do it, I don't think I'd sleep the night before. I'd be nervous about it. I can't
well, I appreciate that. Yeah. Like that. Well, we can have drinks the night before to ease everyone's tensions.
There we go.
Yeah.
On the NBA thing, other than the Damian Lillard thing, any other like fond memories of doing NBA shows? Anybody you've met that's interesting?
Oh, yeah.
Experiences you had where you're like, oh crap, how did this happen?
Yeah, we've had an incredible relationship with the NBA and many teams across the NBA. I mean, all but maybe 3. And I don't know why. I'm still trying to work on those 3. But we've traveled all over the world. We've been from China to Europe to Brazil to, all over the U.S. And, you know, I think what's interesting is they bring us to show them like, hey, this is American NBA culture. And so I'm honored to be a part of that. I think one of the coolest experiences, though, was going to China at the time when LeBron was still on the Heat, and it was the Clippers as well. So Chris Paul was with them. And we were at in like Beijing. We went to Beijing and Shanghai, but one of the cities, I had just done the halftime, and I'm full of sweat. I turn around and I hear, hey, what's up, man? What are you doing here? And I turn around, it's Chris Paul. And I was like, hey, what's up, buddy? And I had done his portrait his rookie year. His introduction when the Hornets were in New Orleans, met him afterwards. I mean, such a gentleman still to this day. And every team he's been on, I've seen him, and he's always remembers and says hello. And here we are in China. Turn around, Chris Paul. He's just like, what's up, man? Great to see you. He's like, hey, I want to get our teams in contact. I'm like, you're about to go play a game. And he's talking to me about this. So that was a cool moment. And then also that same trip, I did a portrait of Yao Ming in China. And I mean, a sold out arena. And then he came out, we shook hands, took a photo, and that was really cool. And, you know, I think about some NBA memories. There's a lot of, we don't have enough time today for just those stories, but that was a very cool experience.
That sounds like an amazing experience. I want to hear more about that. We're probably gonna have to do episode 2 or 3 on this thing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about America's Got Talent.
Yeah.
How did that come about? How'd you get into that? How'd you start down that path?
Yeah. America's Got Talent was wild. We had gotten like this cold email from one of the producers They said, we love what you do. We'd love for you to try out for the show. And at the time, I was already 8 years into my career. I didn't feel like I was in a place I need to try out for anything. I was already, couple home purchases in, like on the outside, I was comfortable. And I remember replying and saying, yeah, I'd love to do this. I just need 6 minutes. And they replied, they're like, no, you get 90 seconds. Everyone gets 90 seconds. The comedians, the dancers, the dogs, you name it, everyone gets 90 seconds. And so I waited to reply, and I really sat and thought for probably like a day, like, could I even do this? Is this even physically possible or mentally, creatively? And I replied, I said, yes, I would love to do it. And they said, great, here's the date. It's in 3 months. We'll see you there. I had no idea how I was going to do this. And and I say we because I had to bring some of my dancer friends in with me to do this. And I was impossible without them. And I credit them and thank them for this. But we cracked the code and figured this out maybe 2 weeks before the original audition. So we go and do this audition. Now, when the producer contacts you and they want to bring you on, the only special treatment you get is, look, we have a lot of supplies and stuff, and they give us a special entrance to bring everything. We're not like waiting in line like everyone else. So I will say that. And I don't know if I'll get in trouble for that or not, but who cares? But they did take care of us, but everyone tries out. No one has some sort of in. And I'll tell you this because I really didn't know how this was going to go. We do the performance. Everyone looks confused. It's very quiet. And then you start to hear this kind of eruption. And then eventually at the end, 90 seconds later, handprint, standing ovation. All the judges stand up. It was Howie Mandel, Sharon Osbourne, and Howard Stern. And the first thing Howie Mandel said was, I'm very familiar with this style of art because Denny Dent was a great friend of mine. And backstory, he had actually bought the rights to Denny Dent's story. So he's very familiar with this. But I remember him saying, and I don't even know if they put this in the aired version, but he said he would be very proud to see where you've brought this and where you've taken this. And then I was like, look, I'm ready to go home. I'm good. We don't need to go on. I'm good with this. Call it a day. But they put us on through the Vegas round. And then we went off stage and I looked at my team and I was like, guys, we have to do this again. And we were just like, oh no. But we did it and we went on, every step was just even more wild. I mean, when they show the stuff on TV, that's not edited down. It's 90 seconds of performance. Now, the other world versions of this show, they get more time because I have a friend who painted on India's Got Talent. It was like 3 minutes. I'm like, God, that's like forever. So we went to...
You could have built a nap time into that.
Seriously. I could have stretched in between. But yeah, we go to the finals and we get up there. And there's some other behind the scenes stuff that I won't share today. I'll share over some drinks. But, it was a very, very tough situation to be in, dealing with producers and stuff that was happening, with contracts and all. There's a lot of stuff behind the scenes that people don't know that add to the stress of preparing for these shows. We got to the finals. It was us and like 3 other acts. And I saw the dogs up there and I was like, oh, we're definitely going home. We're going home before them for sure. But we went home in 4th place and I was so happy and proud that we even made it that far. Like, it's such a weird, different act to have on there. And if I saw anyone else go on that show and even make it past 1 round, I would have so much respect and admiration for them because I know how hard it is. And, I know how hard it was on my team, my family. But getting through the other side, it changed my life. I mean, till this day. We're 12 years removed from it, and we still, get stuff from that show. It's pretty cool.
It was a catapult.
Absolutely. Like, think about this. Before, when I said I was comfortable, like 8 years in my career, had I not gone on that show and taken on that challenge and just gone through the mess of it, I would have only known comfort. That's it. I would have only known, don't rock the boat, just keep it chill and everything. Nope. I just, now looking back on that, I would have been so unhappy. I would have watched someone else do it. I would have watched some other artist figure it out, and I would have been regretting not doing it at that time, at that moment. And so I think if anything, anyone that's listening to this, if you're getting that calling in your heart right now, you have to answer it despite of however it plays out. Like you're doing this podcast. You could be napping right now. You've had a long week, month, life, and yet you're investing time into something that you enjoy without being 10 years down the road thinking, God, I wish I started that 3 years ago. So you just got to go for it. You got to listen to your heart and just do your best in the process. So, but that America's Got Talent changed my life forever.
Any more things behind the curtain there that you saw, or like anybody cool that you met? Like Howard Stern, was he cool, or were any of the other people? Did you was Simon Cowell there?
No, Simon. It was before Simon. It was Howard was like kind of the main new person. I would say Howard Stern was probably the reason why we actually went to the finals, because it came down to ourselves and this other group called Lightwire. And the portrait I had just done in the semifinals was a 16-foot tall Statue of Liberty that was actually painted on separate pieces in a minute, came together, hoisted up. I figured out this like kind of rope tie thing, released it, and it unveiled. And one of the pieces of the face that I think it was my fault, pretty sure it was mine, but it was a little off. It wasn't a perfect portrait. And so he had commented on that. But when it came down to the decision, he said, look, if we're deciding who would be the best Vegas show here, I would go watch his show. And so I remember running into him. I was doing halftime for the Knicks at Madison Square Garden. And, I don't know if you've ever been there, but backstage is where all the black cars pull up. Like it's like the backstage area, because I've done concerts there as well, opening for acts. And you see all the stars come out, and he comes out, and I just walk over to him when he gets out. I was like, hey, I'm Garibaldi from the show. He's like, yeah. He's like, what are you doing here? I was like, I'm working, performing halftime. He's like, man, I'm so proud of you. I'm so glad, happy to see that you're taking this far. And that was cool. And there's been other moments where I had with Howie Mandel as well, where he actually connected me with Denny Dent's family. Right after the show, he had emailed me, said, hey, I'd like to connect you with Allie, his wife, because Denny Dent had passed away. So passed away in 2005, I believe. And so Howie said, I want to introduce you to Allie. She really wants to meet you. I call Allie, and she said, hey, whenever you're in Denver, let me know. Come by. I was in the Denver airport. So you're not going to believe this. I'm in Denver right now. She's like, come over. So we went over to see his studio. And I mean, that experience, meeting Allie, because she was so generous with her time, didn't have to be. She was showing us his space. It had never been adjusted or moved since his passing. And then it was so eerie because I saw his studio set up, and it just reminded me so many things that he did that are, if you do this art form, you understand it. If you don't, looks like an artist studio, but I understood it and I got it. And there was a lot of other special moments being there. Yeah. That afterward. Yeah. That was another cool thing behind the scenes.
Did you learn anything from seeing, other than being inspired by it and looking at it? Did you see anything in his process that you took or changed, or that you adopted? Absolutely.
When I went to Denny Dent's studio and I saw some of his things, one thing that he was working on was like this big Broadway show. And think about it, before he had come out and went out to the world, he did a lot of big corporate entertainment, but it's hard to break through to like real entertainment worlds, and have people that promote shows take you seriously because they think you're just corporate entertainment. They think you're just kind of a one-trick pony. But he saw something bigger, and he knew that it was more than that, because he's meeting people every day, and you're like, man, we're connecting on a heart level. And I know he did, because I meet people that met him. And I know this, but I saw his plans for this show, and it encouraged me to keep dreaming big, even if there are people in this industry that don't see what I see. Because when I started painting, performing, people didn't see that I could even go on a TV show and do this. And from then on, there's no way a brand would work with us and do a brand deal. And we did. And all these big dreams. So it just encouraged me to keep dreaming big, as Denny Dent did. And he had this quote that when it comes from the heart, it lands on the heart. And I truly believe that, and I've been able to experience that because of what Denny Dent inspired me to do in performance painting, it and the way that he did it and the way he connected with people.
Well, you can tell everything you do comes from the heart. I think that's a big reason that people just can't get enough of it.
Oh, thank you.
I love that. That is awesome. Okay, the Kiss tour.
Yeah.
How'd this happen?
Well,
tell me about that.
I mean, going back to what I just said, there's people don't see what you see. I always knew from my first tour with Blue Man Group before America's Got Talent. So did my first tour with Blue Man Group in 2009. America's Got Talent was 2012. So they actually rolled the dice on me first. We did 2 tours with them, big arena tours. Awesome. But before social media, no one really knew besides the people in the room. And then since AGT, I had been trying to build a brand that could tour. So the way we did our social media, the way that we presented the show, that someone could look at it and kind of package it. No one really took us serious. We had done a lot of ticketed shows that did well, but it wasn't enough. We didn't have that, like, you know, that household name where people just show up just because. Doc McGee, who is a famous rock and roll manager, you know, Bon Jovi, Motley Crue, all these big stars, Kiss for a long time. Someone in his office, I'm sorry, let me backtrack. They were looking for an opening act that wasn't just a band. And they also had this idea of wanting to raise money as well. They just didn't know where it would click. So someone in his office said, hey, I'm from the city, Sacramento. There's this guy there. I don't know if he's still doing it or not, but you should check out this guy. He's an entertaining painter, and he also raises a lot of money for charity. We were very vocal and public about that. Doc McGee checks out some stuff. He cold calls my agent. He's old school. Looks up his number, calls him, says, hey, this is Doc McGee, Kiss's manager. I'm interested in learning more about David. So my agent calls me. He's like, hey, so Doc McGee wants to give you a call. I'm like, who is that? He's like, it's the manager for Kiss. And I was like, why does he want to call me? He's like, he wants you to open up for them on tour. I'm like, what? So he's like, I'll send you the number, give him a call. I call. The moment of pressing call to call Doc McGee was the same feeling I get like going out on stage. They call your name. You've got the parachute and you're like, look, we're going, bro. We're jumping out of the plane, pull the chute, go out, perform. Called him. And then we just chatted. And he's like, you know, kind of feeling me out. I told him what we do. And he's like, cool, man. Like, let's give it a try. And we actually negotiated the deal, me and him. So it wasn't even my agent. My agent wrapped up the deal, but we worked out some stuff like on the phone. I love that about him. I'm still forever grateful. So he's like, look, let's just try out 10 shows. See how it goes. The first 10, I'm like, I'm still excited about that. And we go to the rehearsal the week before. And then eventually we go do the first show in Vancouver, Canada. And I do the first performance. And now leading up to that, here's some tension. Leading up to that, they announced that I was going to be the opener. And their fans were livid. They're like, why? This is your last tour ever. Why the hell would you have a painter? And they're like, no, just wait. You haven't seen this kid. Just wait. And they don't see what I see. Doc McGee has a special way to see things, and thank God he did. We go and do that first show. And then we saw some comments online. People are like, he better not be at the next show. And people from the first show said, you better show up early and check this out. It is not what you think it is. It is way better. And so that started happening over that first week of shows. This like fans were like fighting online about me. The ones that hadn't seen me didn't want to see me. The ones that had were like, I want to see him again. So 10 shows are over. We're at the Forum in LA. I'm walking out with my suitcases. I'm like, this is cool. I'm done. And then I'm walking out. I see Doc. Doc's like, hey, he's like, you want to do the rest of the shows with us in the country? And there was like 40 more shows left. I said, sure. He's like, cool. I'll see you next week. So we end up doing all of North America. We end up at the end of that tour. Same thing. He's like, you want to go to Europe? I was like, hell yeah. We go to Europe. We go do that tour. And then at the end of that, he's like, we're doing North America again. Fast forward, we did all of 2019. And then they wanted me to do 2020. And I was like, hey, man. I was like, I got a family. I was like, I gotta be home. He's like, all right. So they replaced me with David Lee Roth, which I think was awesome. And but COVID shut down the tour. The tour started back up in 2021. We were back on tour for another run with them, and we went like 150 shows, something like that, around the world. So, that whole journey, it was like it was, again, going back to what we've been talking about. It was proof of where my heart was leading me to. Look, if you see it and you're willing to work hard enough for it, go for it. Like, keep putting it out into the world. Because if I had shied away from and listened to people, I would have never been telling you this story. So that was like proof of concept. And then it just set us up for some more tours and a lot of other really cool shows that we've done.
Okay, so I need to go back. And so you weren't just going from a blank canvas, so to speak, which is amazing to begin with. You had to turn a room, and not just turn a room, but this is a room full of painted up Kiss fans.
Oh yeah.
That probably have a few pops in them and some other stuff in them.
Yeah.
Some of them. And what was that like? Was that intimidating doing that? I mean, I just need to go back to that. How did that feel walking out on stage?
Yeah.
Were you just uber confident that I'm going to get him, or was it like, oh, let's see what happens? I mean, what was that like?
Yeah. I didn't know if they were going to like me or not. I didn't know if I was going to get booed off the stage, stuff thrown at me. I just knew that I had a career full of walking in rooms where people didn't know me, and I had to win them over. And I think that the art form of performance painting, the reason why I say performance painting and not speed painting, not performance art, performance painting is because the painting is just part of the art form. How you create a show experience is the other part. And I think because I put emphasis on that for them, from what they hear before I even walk out to what they hear when I walk out, what they hear leading up to the portrait reveal and the transitions, like sound design has a lot to do with that experience. And I feel like, and again, this is aside from painting, performing, keeping them engaged. The sound and music had a big part of keeping them engaged, because the concept is I'm just a conduit, right? The painting is the star. So for them, I want to take them back to a great time. We're playing music from Queen and Jimi Hendrix and Motley Crue, like all these, what they can just flash back to a great time in their life. And that's all I was trying to do. And I think that's where they're like, oh wait, I don't know what it is, but there's something here, and they just connected with it, and it worked. So, I wasn't actually nervous going out, because I just accepted whatever was going to happen. And if they were going to boo me off the stage, bring it on. What a great story to tell, I mean, that's the story I'd be telling you right now. But it worked out for the better.
What were the Kiss guys like?
They were awesome. And they were always very generous with their time. Anytime we connected. And Paul Stanley was really cool, because Paul is an artist. I don't know if you knew that. Did you know? Yeah, Paul Stanley paints. He's an artist. So he'd like randomly stop by my dressing room, not in makeup, and just like, hey man, so like what kind of paints are you using? And I'm like talking to him, and I'm like, yeah. Sometimes we would be waiting by the loading dock, like right when the show was over. I mean, there's fireworks going off. And then they would walk by and he's like shirtless. And then I'm next to one of the paintings. He's like, that was my favorite one. And then they're like, all the rest of the guys walk off and he's standing there like sweating. So he's like, no, when you do the fingers and the guitar, like how are those like, he's talking to me about the light and shadow. It was so cool. And I would say, Eric and Tommy were great, but Gene Simmons was like the most surprising because he's a very intimidating person. If you meet him, just being around him, he has a very incredible like rock star presence, but he's also like the coolest. He likes to banter, and actually some of my private aviation experiences were with the band on some flights in between shows, and we'd sit there in the back of the plane with Gene, and he's such a smart, funny dude. So much fun, man. So the guys were awesome. They always welcomed me as if I was, part of the fam at the time.
Do you keep in touch with them at all?
No, I don't keep in touch with them. I just text with Doc McGee, just keeping that contact. But I'm sure if we ever wanted to meet up with the guys, we could definitely meet up with them, with Eric, Tommy, Paul, or Gene. So yeah. But we had, if I never see them again, I'm happy with all the great stories that I've had on.
Okay. Andrea Bocelli.
Yeah.
Conte Partiro is like my vibe.
Tell me about that.
I cannot get over that. I know that I love that song. I don't know. I mean, especially when he does it with Sarah Brightman,
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know what to do with myself. That's such an emotional song. I don't know most of the words.
Yeah.
What they're really saying, and it doesn't matter. The feels are just incredible with that song. I think it was in 2000 or 2001 when I discovered that song,
Mm-hmm.
and just love it. And I know how uncool that can sound, but I don't care. I love it. And what an amazing performer! What a gift he has also. And what was that like? How did you get hooked up with him?
Yeah. Well, Andrea is such a unique figure in entertainment because he's a classical opera singer that has been able to bring that art form to the masses. And so I remember we got the call about that, and my agent had known someone with his team, but we had raised over $1 million on the Kiss tour alone. So like, here's the thing, I was the opener and I had to entertain this audience, but also each painting from each night that I did of the band, that was like the third painting I did, was signed by the band and auctioned off over the course of 100-something shows, raised $1 million plus. So either whether my agent pitched them on this or whether they heard about it, they still figured out like, wow, this could be really cool if he performed with Andrea, and then Andrea signed it and to benefit our Bocelli Foundation. So that was really kind of how it started. And then, we did some calls, and we did some creative calls with their team, and we kind of figured out a way to make this work. And going into this, you don't know how it's going to go. You don't know if like it's more than just the artist. It's also their team as well that you've got to get to know. The lighting designer to the sound, the assistants, like there's a whole like orchestra of people in this world. But luckily we connected with them, and it's same deal. This is why I always love, like, look, just throw me in the room. Let me work to win them over. And the same thing, like, we should just do 12 shows. Still incredible. We raised a ton of money on that first one. So I would perform with him in one of the sets. And then at intermission, I went back to his dressing room. We brought the painting. He would sign it. I would sign it. We'd take photos with it, talk, chatted, play with his dog. And then the online auction starts, like during the show. So we're checking the auction, and these numbers are insane. Like Andrea Bocelli fans from Louisville, Kentucky to New York City are another level of arts supporters. And it was incredible. But, after that first run of 12 shows, we're like, we got another run and so on. And now we're doing our fourth run with them. And on the last 3, we raised $1 million on those alone. So this one coming up, hope and praying that we raise a lot more. And their foundation is incredible. And that's what I think is the heart of all this. Like, Andrea is incredible. Like, him and his family have been like the sweetest to us. But we're all doing this, like, we're all using our gift for something bigger. They've got their foundation, their mission. I've got my intent and purpose that I want to live for and use my gift for something bigger. And that's how we all meet in the middle. I think if we were all just trying to go after fame and money, I don't think it'd be as fun, to be honest, because I've done those type of events where it was just purely entertainment. It's like, it's cool, but these with Andrea Bocelli, it's a way deeper experience. And also the music, I've never painted to these sounds before. It's it's unreal. It's unreal.
Okay, I want to get into the foundations and the charity aspect, but just my own curiosity, where was the coolest place you performed with him?
I mean, I would say Madison Square Garden. We did 2 nights there with him. We're going back again in December, but I think that was, it's the Garden. I've been there a bunch of times, like countless times, and even with Kiss, we played there and some other acts. But with him, it was different. It was like how you felt. We started talking about Andrea, and you start recalling how that song makes you feel, and everyone is like that. Like when he's singing, everyone is so like quiet. I've never been to a concert where everyone's so intently taking it in, and it's a really special thing to see someone's gift be consumed and appreciated in that way, where there's like the other side, like emotion comes out of the other side of it.
I get the feels. I just get these heavy feels just thinking about it. Like, he's one of the few artists that does that to me. Harry Connick Jr. is another one.
Yes,
and he's actually a listener of our podcast. So
amazing!
Hello, Harry,
Shout out, Harry!
Yeah, get David there.
Let's do a painting
for you
together. Yeah,
let's do it. But yeah, the feels, the emotion, he, to me, feels like he comes from such a real place, like you do with your art, which makes it just so much more meaningful and powerful. And so, yeah, I bet just the two of you both doing your things there, just, yeah, that's overpowering. That's overwhelming.
And I'll add this
too.
Or real quick, I'll add there's some other performers that are on this show. Because think about it, him alone, he's standing. There's 100-something piece orchestra and choir, and then there's like these ballet dancers that come out. There's these other, like the sopranos and the baritones. I mean, he attracts an incredible group of talented people as well. So I'm around them throwing paint, and these are these classically trained artists. It's so unreal. I love it.
So in my line of work, flying around the world, private jet around the world. Again, I'm just the driver. Yeah. As cool as it is, as much as I love it and I've been doing it forever, I have these moments where every once in a while I sit back, and I always try to act like you've been there before, right? But I'll sit back and be like, dang, I can't believe I'm here. I can't believe I'm seeing this or witnessing this, or whether it was someone really cool I met, or a sunrise or a sunset or something over the South Atlantic or a town we go into. What does that for you? Because you've done, I mean, listen, you've done all these great things. You've been on TV, touring with these people all over the place, NBA games. I mean, what does it for you? What do you look forward to? And where do you just sit back and think, oh my gosh, David, how did I get here?
Yeah. I mean, I think there's 2 sides of that. There's one side where I get those messages from kids that are inspired by what I do. And I wish I was able to do that when I was growing up, to just DM one of my favorite artists that were inspiring me. And so I take that to heart. And when they do, I do my best to get back and encourage them and ask them what they're doing to prepare. And so, because I don't take for granted that this journey is a gift. And I was that kid, I got the poster board from the drugstore and, growing up, and got the markers at the checkout, and came home and drew on those like it was like getting ready for a show, and I had these big dreams. And I remember watching Fantasia when I was a kid. I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do at Disney. I'm going to do something. Like you take on these emotions, and then you have to realize that right now, all over the globe, there are people living with that same dream. Some may get to live it, some may not. And having that perspective, it helps when a kid reaches out and says like, hey, I'm looking for some encouragement, and we get to do that. That's when I'm taken back. Like, thank you, Lord, for bringing me to this moment. The others, I think there's always this moment as a performer when you're walking off stage and you just had this like kind of euphoric connection with the audience, and you're like, in the moment, you're like, I'm just doing my job. I'm doing my best. But then as you walk off, it starts to wear away. You go to the hallway and you're going back to your dressing room, and it's not euphoric anymore. It's like kind of reality hits you. But I think those moments are the ones that hit me the most, because, this is the other side of it, which is, look, let's go on and do the next one. But also you're like removed from what you just experienced. It's not euphoric anymore when it feels more like reality. When that reality hits after that moment, that's when I'm taken back and think, this is unreal that I get to do this. I don't care if that's happening. When I get that feeling, if I'm at a state fair, there's 100 people out there. I don't even know if I've done that before, but if I was, or if I was at an elementary school doing this and I'm walking off, or if I was at Radio City Music Hall with Josh Groban, same feeling, walking off like, that was really cool. This is an awesome life. This is cool.
What charities are you involved with? You mentioned charities a couple of times that you're involved with them. What are they, or what are they, or what is it, and how can people get involved?
Yeah, well, I'll mention two. So one is my own called Creator X, which I had founded with my high school art teacher. So I famously did not graduate high school, but my art teacher was still a big part of my life. And about 5 to 6 years ago, we founded this organization to help young artists get introduced to arts, media, and entertainment as a career option. So we put on these free camps, bring out all our friends from Disney, Pixar, you name it, and encourage them and show them a path to a career. And so that's one of them. CreatorX.org is the website. And then also we just use our platform to raise money for various charities, from Special Olympics to American Heart Association to just so many different ones around the world. But so far we've raised over $8 million on this journey by doing that. And hopefully before I leave this earth, it's 10 times that, but we try to help as many organizations that empower others. So that's why I love Special Olympics, is because they are empowering their athletes to live at their best and the most that they can. So I love those. And anyone else out there that has an organization that we could support, please let us know, and we'll figure out how we can jump in there and help. And
you alluded to this, but you're a man of faith.
Yes, absolutely.
And how is that, being in these environments and being like really a rock star? How is it being a man of faith and going through that? Does it make it difficult at times, or does it enhance it, or is it?
Yeah.
I'm sure it's influential on other people, just seeing how you are and how you
yeah,
your personality, your demeanor. But tell me about that.
Yeah. Well, I think being a man of faith in a world of entertainment, I think it's supposed to be hard, and it is. And I think that the world of entertainment is it's like the clearest example of like the world wanting to like feed your flesh. That term is used a lot in the Bible, where like feeding your flesh is like feeding your desires, like your human side of you. And then by faith, we know that there's this thing that we can tap into that would help us overcome that. And so if we're not tempted, then we're not experiencing, and then we're not able to enact our faith. And so, yes, it is hard, and I have stumbled. And when I say I'm a man of faith, it's like, it's a journey, it's up and down all the time. But I always, again, before I go on stage, though, I do say this prayer, and part of that prayer is that people see a light in me where they ask me, they're like, what is new and different? Like this moment right here, you'd ask, like, I see you're a man of faith. It's like, this is the moment where you're supposed to praise his name and say it. And so, you know, I that is what I always hope comes across, that there's, like, it can't be that guy that's special about him. There's something else. And that something else is that my sins were forgiven, you know, that there's a God greater than me that not only gave me my gift, but also extends that same thing to all of us. So it's, and I think too, having kids now, making sure that they have a solid foundation in their own faith journey, and that they understand too that the world will tempt you, and that's part of this process. That's why our faith exists, because we're going to be constantly tempted and tested, and also the enemy will work on those who are helping God the most. He wants to dim the brightest lights, and so I even see that as a gift as well.
Well, you say you hope it comes across a certain way, and I have to tell you, as a friend and a fan, it absolutely does come across that way, and it's very, very cool.
No,
it's
thank you, man.
It's fun to witness. Okay, something else I have to hit on here.
Yes.
You mentioned about not graduating high school, and the only reason I know that is because I can't believe it. I think it's just so cool. You put your recent journey of getting your GED online, and you just the full exposure of yourself, and again back to the vulnerability of it, and just saying, hey, listen, I never completed this, I'm going to complete it here, I'm showing you my journey, and you guys hold me accountable, and here we go. What was that like, and what sort of feedback did you get, and how inspirational was that for other folks?
Yeah. You know, putting online my journey to actually get my high school diploma. So it wasn't a GED because I had to earn the credits to get the diploma. Okay. But, you know, I had been through I won't go into specifics on this podcast, but I had gone through a really hard time the prior year. And I had gone through difficulties that I never thought I would experience in my life. And it had to do with a lot of situations that I could not control. It was out of my control. I just had to go through it. And so getting on the other side of it and knowing that it didn't stop me, it broke me a little bit, but didn't break me down, and I can build myself back up. I had a moment later that year experiencing that where I thought, well, what can I control? Like what in my life I can control my health for now, you know, do what we can to prevent disease or prevent those things, you know, working out, being mindful of that. Like what else in my life? And I was like, oh yeah, I haven't graduated yet. I don't have my high school diploma. So let's sign up. And it was before even wanting to share that, I just wanted to make it right with that high school teacher, because he had done his part, been my mentor my whole career. Hey, I want to do this for you. He's like, you don't need to. I was like, you already have a successful career. I'm like, I know, but you still do so much for me. I need to complete this for you, for us, the relationship that we have, to keep my word. And so now putting it online I didn't know how people would react to it. I didn't know if they would care or not. And I ended up getting so many messages great messages from people that had never completed it, and they were scared to go back, or they thought they didn't have time, but they're like, I see you doing it, so I know I can figure it out. People that had family members that felt like, you know, they had just given up on their life, and not even just high school diplomas. I'm talking about people that may have given up on career dreams, that there's no stopping in this journey. This is it. There's no redo. There's no part 2. Like, make the most of this, make it fun. And so I even shared, you know, when I would fail tests. Like, I'm literally backstage on tour with Bocelli, and I'm taking my test and I failed. I was like, oh man, maybe I should study. That would probably help. And so that was part of it. And I just enjoyed that whole process from sharing it, the vulnerability of it, and then just the messages from people, you know, afterwards.
Well, look at this platform you have, and it can be used in so many ways, commercial ways or other ways. And you have turned it into such an inspirational message just by you being you and you showing you, and the whatever blemishes or bruises or hey, I'm dealing with this is so inspirational. And I'm so glad that you are getting those messages and stuff. And I'm sure that's probably, who knows, probably 2% of the people that you're actually touching and inspiring too. And who knows where that's going off of there. And I it's such a cool thing to I don't like to brag, but I love that I love being friends with you.
Yeah, man.
I'm
Likewise.
I'm proud of it. I'm just really proud of it. Just that, what a great human you are, and it's really fun to see it.
Oh,
The
thank
things
you.
you've done so far, and the things you're going to do. I got to pay the bills real quick. I got to.
Let's
I
do
forgot
it.
about this. I got to. International Jets. They gave me a free hat. Pretty much is
Hey.
all. We're still talking, but no, I'm kidding. They're more than that. But International Jets, they're jet brokerage. We've bought and sold a lot of airplanes from them. They're amazing. David Kilcup at International Jets, intlJets.com. Go to them if you have any sort of need or desire for private air travel, intlJets.com. Okay, before we get too close to wrapping up, I have a question I ask people.
Yeah.
And it's important to me and part of my journey. And just when I see and know someone like yourself who is successful in a field or going through a journey, what is contentment to you? What does contentment look like? Is it something that's attainable? Is it a process? Is it a destination? I mean, look, you've been at Madison Square Gardens. You've been touring with these people, creating awesome things, networking. What is contentment to David?
Yeah. Well, if you asked me this question before I experienced any level of success, I would have told you that my contentment would have been having a successful career. Now being in it, we learn different lessons along the way. And I think being on this side, as I look forward in life, to me, contentment is being at peace with whatever you have. I mean, learning not to live with much, I feel like, is also sort of an art form. And what I mean by that is there are not things in this world, like objects, that define you. There are not titles that define your soul. And so what I would hope to strive for to experience contentment, because I'm not there yet. Like I have a lot to work on. I got a lot of therapy to go to, but I do want to get to that place where even if I'm like, I don't even need a studio, I don't need that much paint on standby. Like there's things that I think I need now that I know I'll realize later that I don't. That to me would be a place that I feel content with, finding peace in that. I mean, I feel like that would maybe be the destination, is finding peace, and the beautiful journey is searching for that and getting to that, the journey to contentment. And so even if I never reach it, I'm happy trying to search for it along the way.
So it's a process. It's a direction. It's a journey for you.
Yeah, I would say it's a journey. That's what that is. And also I think that when we were talking about faith earlier, how you're tempted, because on the journey you're tempted, you're like, maybe I'll collect a little something else along the way, or which is fine. Maybe you do, and then it's not a total loss because you're on a journey. You're like, oh, I'll learn my lesson. Learn the lessons. Every hiccup along the way is not a loss. It's a lesson to move you forward.
Love it. So what's next for you? What are you working on now? What's next? What's in the future? What are we going to be looking forward to?
What's next? Well, I told you earlier, I love social media. I love making art, sharing it with people. And so, we're setting up a new space right now that is geared towards creating more art and content, but also teaching art and teaching content. So my next 10 years, in addition to being a performance painter and creator and entertainer, is I really want to grow in education. I want to grow in arts education. I think that it's a new world that the current curriculum doesn't support. And I would like to add on to the arts curriculum in schools around the world that is realistic to prepare artists for a changing world ahead. So creating the space to do that, creating the platform to do that, that's what we're doing now. We've been working on this for I would say 2 years solid, but it's been in conceptual for 4 or 5 years. And it's finally coming to fruition in this next year. We've been putting things out. So I have a podcast called The Paint Method, and this way of thinking and education is based on the paint method. It's about discovering where you are in life so that you know what to create next. And it's a creative tool, but also I believe that it's a professional tool as well that you can use in your career and can use as a leader to your team and thinking about the world differently through the lens of paint. So that's what I'm excited about. I'm also excited about it because starting a business from scratch and getting into education is not natural. Like being an artist, growing a career, that was a natural progression. You know, you have hits along the way that, you know, that aren't great, and then you kind of bounce back, but there's a natural progression there. Doing this is a complete challenge, and I love it. And that's why I realize that I'm up for this ride for the next decade or more, because I love how hard it is to get this going. But education is what I have learned and experienced. It's an incredible tool, as money is a tool. It's not the end all, but you can use it to take you pretty far.
Love it. That's going to be inspirational also. Like I look at, like in the music world, you see a lot of people that you go to their house, you have a guitar. Like, I didn't know you're a musician.
Yeah.
There's so many people you don't know are a musician or don't know they're an artist. And you never would, unless you went into their house or it came up, you know, in some other random way. And by you putting yourself out there and doing this, you're inspiring people to take it beyond their house, leave their house with it, go do things, do something greater. Even if they end up not having 2 million followers online or being at Madison Square Garden or whatever, at least taking it to some level that is fun for them and also will bring joy to other people too. And I think your message is very, very, very inspirational towards that. And I think that, we'll see that's wide-reaching.
Thank
also.
you. And I want to add too, before we wrap this up, I appreciate you using this opportunity to just tell stories about unique people that you meet along the way with the people that you're meeting along the way, because I'm sure a lot of your listeners are people that you've connected with and met or have met people through there. And so I think it's really cool what you're doing, and it's inspiring to me too, especially because I probably spend almost as much time in hotel rooms as you, and you're like landed, you know, I'll send you the link, like you were on it. And I know I'm not like that when I get to a hotel room. So I admire your energy and pursuit of this.
Well, I appreciate it. Well, for those who are looking on Spotify online, you can see I'm in a hotel room now. Which
Did I give it away? Yeah.
So no, it's awesome. I usually am.
Yeah.
So no, I really appreciate that. Thank you, and I appreciate you, and I appreciate your friendship.
Likewise.
I appreciate your time and for carving this time out for me. It means so much to me, and it's so nice for you to share it with me personally, and then for all of our listeners.
Yeah.
So thank you so much. And
I'll see you at a show, hopefully soon in December.
Let's do it.
Yeah, let's get that date on the books. Yeah,
absolutely. So thank you, sir. God bless you, and God bless everyone listening. And listeners, please share this podcast. Click follow, it means a lot to us. And please keep following David Garibaldi as well. And let's just keep making the world a better place, all of us together. And David, again, thank you for your time, sir, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you.